Hello and welcome to part 3 of the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. In parts 1 and 2, we actually heard from the author Patrick Lencioni speak through the 5 Dysfunctions and share some of his own personal experiences working with organizations and leaders and helping them become functional, highly functional teams. And so in this session, we're actually going to go back through each one of the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team and talk about, just give you some bullet points on how those teams, when they're getting it right, when they're highly functional and not dysfunctional, what are some characteristics of those teams? And so we're going to jump into that right now. Okay, the first dysfunction that Patrick Lencioni talked about in teams that are dysfunctional is the fact that there is a lack of trust. And so what does it look like when people are on a trusting team? So members of a trusting team, number one, ask for help. They're not afraid to say, you know what, I need help here. I have resources, I'm able to do some things, but I actually need some people to come alongside of me. That actually builds trust. And when they trust one another and there's an idea of, you know what, I'm not going to be made fun of, no one's going to ridicule me for asking for help, that's a fact. That is an aspect of a team that trusts one another. The second thing is accepting questions and input about their roles. So team members on a trusting team don't have a problem when people come up to them and say, hey, I've got a question about your role. I've got a question about how you're doing things or maybe why you're doing things a certain way. And it's okay. They welcome that questions and they welcome the input from other people, because on a trusting team, members understand that there's different perspectives, and sometimes a different perspective is actually a very healthy thing to have when it comes to my role and the things that I'm doing. The third thing is that team members on a trusting team don't jump to conclusions. So they don't just automatically think, hey, somebody's out to get my job. Hey, I'm getting ready to be replaced. You know what? That's just the way the corporate office does things. No, they trust. They understand that I've got to see more information. I've got to get more information. I've got to look at different perspectives. And that's what my team helps me do. And I trust that. And therefore, I don't jump to conclusions when things seem a little confusing or maybe even seem frustrating. I ask for help. I get people involved. I get information. I get input. And I don't jump to conclusions. And the fourth thing for members of a trusting team is that they offer and accept apologies quickly and sincerely. So they take responsibility. They're looking at things going, you know what? If I mess up, I'm going to own that. I'm going to take responsibility for it. And I'm going to do it quickly. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to say, you know what? There's information I didn't know about. I tried something new and it didn't work out. But they offer and they accept apologies. So it's one thing to be able to say, you know what? I'm sorry. I messed up there. That's my fault. It's another thing is, how do we do that when people say that to us? So is it one of those situations where people say, listen, I'm really sorry, but yeah, we continue to hold grudges, and that tears down trust. So if we're going to build teams that trust one another, we've got to do these 4 things. Okay, now let's take a look at teams that engage in healthy conflict. So there's not this name calling and it's not just shouting matches, but it's healthy conflict. It's healthy holding one another in a position where we go, you know what, we need to work through this, right? And so here they are, 4 things of teams that engage in healthy conflict. Number 1 is they have lively and interesting meetings. So they're not boring, right? They're engaged. They're influencing each other. They're talking through some things. I want to know your point of view, but I'm going to give my point of view, right? I'm going to talk through these things. And so there's this lively engagement, and the meetings are interesting. People want to be there because they know that they get a chance to be heard, right? They get a chance to step up and speak up, but they're also going to get a chance to hear some feedback that they really, really need. Number 2 is that they solve real problems quickly. So when we're engaged in, you know what, I'm going to bring my best to the table and I'm going to share my thoughts and ideas, and you're sharing your thoughts and ideas, we're able to get to real problems and we're able to solve them quickly, because we're not going, well, you know, I don't know if I really, if I say it this way, I might offend them. No, it's not a matter of offending people. It's a matter of saying, hey, listen, I care enough about this team. I care enough about this organization. And when we do that, we're able to solve problems much quicker. The third thing rather, is that they minimize the politics. Okay, so there's this idea of like, well, we have this idea, but then so-and-so needs to sign off and so-and-so, but you know what, so-and-so doesn't like these kind of ideas, so maybe we should do it this way. And there's a lot of political, you know what, so-and-so is their best buddy, so maybe we go talk to so-and-so and they can convince that boss to do this. And there's all this political stuff. But when you have people who are in a healthy team and they're trusting one another, right? Number one, they're trusting one another. Then they're able to bring good, healthy conflict and say, listen, what's more important, the success of the organization, the success of the team, or somebody's ego, right? And politics happens when we get our egos in the way. And that doesn't happen when people trust each other. And number two, they're willing to have that healthy conflict, right? And then number four is that they put critical topics on the table for discussion, right? So when that agenda comes down, when they're preparing for the meeting, they're not afraid. It's like, oh, I don't know if we're going to talk about this one, or I don't know if we should bring this one up because so-and-so might not be ready to talk about their feelings on this matter. No, it's a matter of, you know what? This is important to the organization. It's important to the team. It's important to our people. So even if it's a critical topic, we want it on the table. We want to be able to discuss it. And that's what happens when teams engage in healthy conflict. All right, so here we go, number 3. And that is teams that commit. What does it look like when teams really commit? Commit to one another, commit to the process, commit to the organizational mission and goals. What does that actually look like? So number one, a team that commits creates clarity around direction and priorities. So I'm committed to this. I'm committed to the fact that I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste resources. I don't want to waste your time and resources. And so we've got to get clear about the direction and the priorities. And so if we're committed to this, those things begin to happen a lot quicker when we're trusting, when we're having healthy conflict, and then that helps us commit, right? We've put our heart out there on the table. We've put our information, we've put our resources, we've put our experience, we've put our expertise out there. And now we're able to get really clear about our direction and our priorities. And then number 2, teams that are committed, right? Teams that are committed to the organization, to one another, they communicate this feeling of it's us, not them, right? So it's not we wanted to do it, but corporate wanted to do something else, or we really wanted to do it this way, but the boss said we had to do it this way. No, it's a matter of once you have that healthy conflict, once people are going and you have your idea and I have my idea, but we get clear about what's right, we get clear about what's best for the organization, then we know when I walk out of that meeting, one, I was able to speak my mind. I was able to have that healthy conflict, right? That healthy communication. And so when I walk away, I'm able to say, no, this is a decision that we decided. This is a decision that we came to. Not, I didn't really want it this way. No, that's not a team member that's committed. A team member that's committed says, you know what? I had a chance to voice my opinion. Here's what we feel is best for the organization. So you know what? This is our decision. This is not their decision. This is our decision. Number 3, a team that commits moves forward without hesitation and with confidence, right? So now you've had this trust factor happening. You've had healthy conflict going on. You've got a chance to really speak your mind on some things. And so now we're able to move forward without hesitation. And there's a confidence here. Like we're all on the same page, right? And there's nothing better than feeling, you know what? My teammates have my back. I have their back. There's a level of confidence that happens when teams are committed to one another, committed to the priorities, committed to the vision and the organization. And then number 4, a team that is committed changes directions quickly without guilt. So we've all been in those situations where there's a decision made, we get moving down the road, right? And then it's like, we need to make some adjustments. Some things happened, something changed, and we need to make an adjustment. Well, when you have a team that is trustworthy and trusts each other, when there's healthy conflict and we're talking about the real issues and they're committed to one another, then when things go awry, when things come up that aren't expected, that team is able to address it, change course, and there's not this guilt like, we should have done it this way, or if we had just done it. No, everybody got it out on the table. Everybody was willing. Everybody was committed to it. And now they're like, you know what? I'm able to do this. And we as a team are able to address the challenges in front of us. We're able to address the changes that need to be made. And we're not pointing fingers. It's not this, you should have said this, or you should have said that. No, there's no guilt. It's just a matter of we're going to do what's best for the team. We're going to do what's best for the organization, and we're going to move forward. That's a team that is committed to each other and committed to the organization. The third function of a highly functional team is this idea that the team holds one another accountable. And when a team holds one another accountable, there are some really neat things that begin to happen outside of ego, outside of people getting their feelings hurt. And the first thing is that it ensures that poor performers understand exactly what needs to happen and the expectations to improve, right? So if we're holding one another accountable, then there's a clarity that comes. When it comes to poor performers, listen, we want you on the team. We're committed to you, right? We're committed. We're going to speak clearly, but at the same point in time, there's a clarity about what we need you to do to help this team stay healthy and moving in the right direction. The second thing that a team that holds one another accountable does is that there's this identification and addressing of potential problems quickly. So if we're on a team where we're trusting one another and we're able to speak our mind, there's healthy conflict and there's a commitment to one another. Now, when it comes to addressing and looking at and identifying potential problems, it happens really quickly because we understand this isn't a matter of getting somebody's feelings hurt or the boss isn't going to like it. No, we've had those discussions. We've had those decisions. So now we are able to really address potential problems quickly. We're able to get to solutions faster. And that's really a wonderful place to be in when team members and teams hold one another accountable. The third aspect is that there's this commonality. That a team has a common respect as all are held to the same standard, right? So now there's not this favorites kind of thing. There's not like, well, that's the boss's favorite. And so, no, it's a matter of, I know I'm going to be held to a certain level of accountability when it comes to my role and my responsibilities. I know that you're going to be held accountable. So now it's not like I have to worry about favoritism. I don't have to worry about somebody's pet project, right? I know that we're all held accountable to this idea of, hey, we've got to bring our best. We've got to do our best because we're committed, right? And I trust these people. I trust these people to hold me accountable to that higher standard. And it feels good. If you've ever been on a team that holds one another accountable, it feels good to say, you know what? Not only am I held to a standard of bringing my best, we are all held to a standard of bringing our best. And then number 4, there's this avoiding. A healthy team that holds one another accountable avoids excessive bureaucracy surrounding any kind of corrective action. So a lot of times when there's distrust and when people really haven't had a chance to communicate their ideas, their thoughts, their expertise, their experiences, then when we get to a matter of corrective action, then there's like this, well, we got to make sure that we're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and there's this bureaucracy. No, on a healthy team that trusts one another, when we're able to have difficult conversations and handle healthy conflict, when we're committed to one another, now when we get to corrective actions, there's not a bureaucracy. There's this clear cut, I knew what was expected of me. I know what begins to happen. I know what needs to happen to correct this. And so now there's a clear cut. There's not a whole lot of red tape. We don't have to get a whole bunch of people involved. Why? Because all along the right people have been involved. And that is a team that is healthy and holds one another accountable. Okay, we've made it to number 5. And the 5th dysfunction of a team is teams that are dysfunctional. They don't get results. They're not winning. They're not putting numbers on the scoreboard, right? So what happens when a team trusts one another, that there's healthy conflict, that they're committed to one another, and that they're holding one another accountable? Now results begin to happen. And what does that actually look like? So let me give you 4 things. 4 things that happen when a team focuses collectively on results. So number 1, the really cool thing that begins to happen is that they retain associates who can get the job done well. Because people who can get the job done want to be on a team that is functional and highly functional and getting results. And so you don't have to worry about, well, I wonder if Joe is looking for a job. We really need Joe around here because Joe does an excellent job. If we are all holding one another accountable, if we are all doing our best, if we are all trusting one another, then those are the kind of teams that high performers want to be on and want to stay on. So your retention level, when you're retaining good employees, when you're retaining good associates, that's an easy thing to do when you have teams that are highly functional. The second thing is that there's this minimalization of the Lone Ranger behavior. And the Lone Ranger behavior, it's the hero complex, it's the person who always needs to save the day, who always needs their name in lights, who always needs the credit, who always needs the round of applause. When you have a team that's getting results, working together, working through conflict, holding one another accountable, sure, there are individual wins, and we're going to talk about that next, but there's not this emphasis on individual wins. And that brings me to the next point. So what happens then is, number 3, a healthy team that focuses on this collective results, they celebrate the individual accomplishments that benefit the team, right? So we see this happen a lot in sports. There's a lot of individual awards and rewards that happen in the sports arena, but the people who do it the best, the players, the athletes who do it the best, are the ones that say, you know what, I have my individual goals. I have my individual key performance indicators, right? I have the things that I know I want to accomplish personally, my personal goals. But those mean nothing unless they are attached to where we're going as a team. It means nothing to me to be the most valuable player on the worst team in the league, right? So healthy teams that are getting results have these wonderful people who get the job done. They're not lone rangers, but they do have individual goals, right? But those goals are celebrated in such a way that it benefits the team. I want to be an MVP, but I want to be on a game-winning, championship-winning team and be the MVP, right? So there's that meshing of individual goals in a healthy way that benefits the team, that benefits the organization. And finally, when you have teams that are working together, holding one another accountable, there's this trust that's happening. Then what begins to happen is those teams don't get distracted. They don't get off course. They don't get thrown off their ideas and off their passion and off their priorities when something goes wrong. When there's a challenge, when something needs to change, when there's conflict, when there's the unexpected that happens, these teams adjust very, very well, and they avoid the distractions. Why? Because they know their priorities. They know what they have to stay accountable for, right? And so when a distraction comes, they recognize it as a distraction, they address it, and they keep moving forward. So it's a really neat thing to begin to build functional teams and be on functional teams. And the final thing that I want to say in our time together is that for all of this to happen, we as individuals have to take ownership of our part. We cannot step back and say, you know what, I'll wait for my leader. When my leader begins to, decide that they want to create this healthy, functional team, well, then I'll buy in. The truth of the matter is, no matter where you're at in your organization, you can be a highly functional team member. Because here's what I've seen happen in the organizations that I've worked with and the people that I've been around is highly functional individuals tend to rub off on their teams, right? Or they move on, one or the other that begins to happen. And so what would happen if we committed, that if you and I committed to this idea that we're going to be highly functional team members? So we're going to go back through the 5 dysfunctions individually on our own and begin to say, you know what, how do I become a trustworthy person? How do I handle conflict in a healthy way? How do I stay committed to the organization, to the people I work with, to the people I care about? How do I hold my team members accountable, and how do I allow them to hold me accountable? So we're individualizing it, right? But you said, Nate, you talked about not being the Lone Ranger. This is not the Lone Ranger. This is not so that I can win. I want it to rub off on my team. I want my team to be a group of highly functional individuals that are winning on a daily basis, right? And the fine thing is, like, what am I doing to get results for the team? Am I just out here trying to win for myself? Am I just trying to get all the commissions for myself? Am I just trying to get all the rewards for myself? Am I trying to get all of the round of applause and cheers for myself? Or am I saying, you know what? I want to do well in commissions. I want to do well in rewards. I want the promotion. But as long as it's not attached to how the people around me grow, if it's not attached to how my team members grow, if it's not attached to how my customers, the people that I'm serving, grow and win, then really is it the result that's really going to help me be a better person? It really helps me be a better team member. And so I want to challenge you in the next few minutes to break into some discussion groups and talk about the 5 dysfunctions of a team, and then talk about, like, what do healthy teams do? What's happening on your team that's healthy? What's happening that you've seen that you're going to share with each other about how you've seen healthy teams come together and do these 5 things very well? I'm honored to have spent this time together with you. I want to challenge you to go back and read the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, whether it's on audiobook or you get it on your iPad, iPhone electronically somehow, or you just go buy the hard copy and read through it, and not just do it for yourself, but share it with the people around you, because you know what? You've got a family that could be a highly functional family. You've got friends who could be a part of a highly functional friend group, and you've got an amazing group of people around you that are working hard daily on a job that could be a highly functional team. We can rub off on the people around us and serve the people around us well. Thank you for your time.